Hello and welcome back to Black Dice Gaming. Today we've got a painting tutorial for you. I unboxed this model not so long ago, so now I set to and started painting it. And it's going to be this one just here. Here we go. So this is Donn the Minotaur, and this is how I got him painted up using the slapchop technique. There we are. Alright, so without further ado, let's get into it. So the first colour we're going to be looking at is Gulliman's Flesh, and we're going to be using that for all of the fleshy parts of the Minotaur. There's quite a few areas which we'll be covering in this. His arms are pretty much exposed, his chest, the front of his face, and most of his legs as well. Just be careful here, we don't really want to be too messy with it, but it's early stages, so we can afford to be a little bit slapchop. Try and keep it off the fur, although again it's not too much of an issue because we're going to be going over with a much darker colour. The little patches of fur on his arms, there's quite a lot on the bottom of his legs, as you can probably make out just there, and also on the head and some of the chest, there's fur there. Yeah, just give it a nice good coat, make sure you get into all the little nooks and crannies, there's plenty of them, and keep going. And while we're waiting for that to dry, we may as well make a start on the base. For that we're using Basilicanum Grey. We're just going to cover all the stones. There is an area on the base that has a shield on it, which we'll leave blank, we'll come back to later. But just make sure you give it a good coating, get all the stoneware covered up in the Basilicanum. As you can see, that shield is just on the back there. Just avoid it, go around it if you can. We'll come back with some metallics later on to finish that off. So moving over to a dry brush now, and what we're going to be doing is going to be using Night Quester Flesh as a dry brush on all the skin area that we've previously painted with the Gulliman's Flesh. This is just to sort of hide. I've always had a problem with the slapchop and doing pale skin. It's always left a very dark sort of skin colour. Which, you know, that kind of ties in with the rest of the model, I guess, but I just wanted the skin to pop a little bit more on this one because there's so much of it. I wanted it to hopefully lighten it up slightly. So using the Night's Quester Flesh, I mean, you could use an even lighter one if you wanted to, but we're just doing a dry brush here just to pick up the edges and basically give it a slightly lighter hue. You could even do a second run. I didn't do it, but you could even do a second run with a much lighter skin tone as well. So now we're going to be moving on to the fur, and for that we used Cygor Brown. Now Cygor Brown's not, it's very, very dark, and it's also not my not my favourite contrast paint. It doesn't seem to do what it's supposed to do by leaving contrast. It just colours everything in this really dark brown, but it's okay. We're going to come back and do a dry brush a bit later on. So I'm using the Cygor brown on all the fair aspects of the Minotaur, so the little bit on the back of its arms, all of the lower half of the legs, and indeed that back chest and around the head where we didn't do the skin. So you just go around picking these little bits off. Shouldn't take too long at all. By the time you finish this, a good chunk of the model will actually be painted, and you can see the end in sight. So again, while we're waiting for that to dry, we'll just pick out the wooden handle on the axe. For that we used snakebite leather, I believe. Yep, snakebite leather. This is a much lighter brown, so you can see the significant difference between the two shades. Don't forget there's a little bit between the axe head and the bandage, and then again right up the tip of the axe head as well. Just make sure you cut those. So again, moving on to the next piece, we used Blood Angel's Red on all of the cloth, which is mainly the parts that are dropping down from his front and to his rear. This is a really nice deep dark red. I think it works really well with the tones of the model. So just go around, do the front and the back. There's a little bit of fabric hanging down from the armors as well, so make sure you can identify them. And I also did them in the Blood Angel's Red as well. There's lots of details in this fabric, lots of folds and creases, so there's plenty of area for the contrast paint to work in. But even so, we're still going to do a dry brush just to highlight some of the edges as well later on. Now for some reason my camera flipped at this point, but we're moving on to the dry brushing. For this we used Steel Legion Drab, and we're just using it to pick up all the hair and the fur on the Minotaur, just to sort of contrast against that really dark, deep Cygor brown that we did earlier on. It just requires a bit of a light dry brush just to pick out the definition here. And because of how well sculpted the model is, it's very easy to pick up the definition. Didn't require a lot of effort at all. Just keep going around across the head, the back of the legs. I did a little bit on the arms as well, but there's not as much fur on the arms. But yeah, it really makes the model stand out, really makes the fur stand out. Again, sincerest apologies, I had no idea the camera sort of flipped at this stage. And obviously with me already painting it, I can't go back and re-show you it again. So we've had to use the footage as is. So once that's done, we decided to dry brush the red. For that we used Mephiston red. And again, all we're doing here is just a nice light dry brush, just to concentrate on the creases and the folds, as I was talking about earlier on. Just to try and pick them up and make them a little bit lighter, give them a bit more of a nice highlight. The red, the Blood Angels red does do quite a lot of the work for you, but just this little step here, it didn't take long, and as you know, with dry brushing it dries very quickly, so it doesn't hold you up in any way, shape or form. It's just nice, it just makes a lot of difference to the overall model in the end. Worth that little bit of effort just to pick out the creases. Like I say, they've done a lot of the work for you with the sculpt. And dry brushing is such a wonderful technique. It really shows a big difference from when you do and don't do it. And as I say, for the amount of red on the model, it's well worth taking this little step. Now next we're going to do the bandages, the horns, and we used Skeleton Horde for that. It's kind of our go-to. There is a bandage or wraps around his arm as well. I also picked those out in the Skeleton Horde. It's just a nice one-stop colour for that sort of thing. Anything that's horns or bones or anything like that, it's kind of my go-to. Just gives it a nice sort of colour, exactly that you want, and the contrast does help. The slapchop undercoat does help sort of pick out the raised and lower areas, so it does a lot of the highlighting for you. Oh, there's also some ropes around its stomach, that's what I'm doing now. I just coated them in the same Skeleton Horde. Moving on now to the final few steps, we're just dry brushing the stonework. For that I used Administratum Grey. I think it's a nice sort of mid-tone grey, just to pick out the edges of the stonework really, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. Makes them stand out and makes them look more like rocks. The Basilicanum Grey is very good for some of the detail work, but just having that extra step here with the Administratum Grey does make a lot of difference. Makes them a lot cleaner, a lot crisper. So you can see all that detail on the base work. Moving on now to all of the metal work. I did a first coat with Iron Warriors, which is a very dark sort of silver, with the intention to sort of dry brushing it up a little bit lighter. I wanted it to look very worn, very old and used. So the very dark Iron Warriors is where I went with it. You could use a much lighter silver if you wanted to, but I like the darkness of this one. There's a big shoulder pad on his shoulder. I just did the whole thing in Iron Warriors. There is detail in it. If you wanted to take a few more steps, then you could do. and pick out some of the detail in another colour. Later on I used Brass Scorpion actually, so on the shield on his base I used Brass Scorpion. You could quite easily use the Brass Scorpion somewhere on the shoulder pad as well, because it is quite a big block of silver. Also going to do the chains and that shield on its back. Okay, so moving on now to the Brass Scorpion, and basically the shield on its back has a lot of edging, so I picked out all the edging in the Brass Scorpion. I don't think I actually recorded this, but once I did the two metallics, I then give it all a coat of Nuln oil. For some reason I forgot to record that part, so once you've done with the metallics and they're all dry, that coat of Nuln oil, and I didn't go over the top. I tried to pick out all the sort of edges on the blade itself. There's a lot of scrapes and scratches, so I tried to pick out all of those. The shield on the floor here, that's extremely damaged, so again I tried to pick out all damaged with the Nuln oil, make it a lot cleaner, and then just give definition between the two colours of the Iron Warriors and the Brass Scorpion. Just create that sort of edging. Excuse me. On his shoulder pad, the Nuln oil picked out a lot of the detail, and it was because of that that I could have gone back to it and picked up some more of the detail in a different colour just to give it that something to stand out, but I didn't. Anyway, moving on to what is the last step. I used an Iron Hands steel as a highlight, and just brushed over and highlighted as much as I can without making it too brand new sort of looking. Stormhost Silver would have been far too light for this because of the darker colour that I used in the first place. But yeah, I just went over everything and just give it that highlight with a dry brush of Stormhost Silver. I didn't use Stormhost Silver, and correct that, I used Iron Hands Steel. I didn't use Stormhost Silver. It was too bright. Obviously at this stage when you dry brush you need to be pretty careful not to go over any of the things that you've already done, especially when doing the chain work down the chest and the back. And the very last touch, I just used Amarantic Blue to colour in the sort of red, the jewel in the middle of his chest, just to stand out. I was arguing with myself what to colour it, and I just thought, oh, I'll use a blue. So there we are. Please like and subscribe and follow for more. I'll catch you in the next one.